Hello, welcome back, Facebook community. I'm Coach Jennifer, and I'm here with Coach Vera. I know it is 7 o'clock on the dot Eastern Standard Time, so I know folks will be coming on here pretty soon. And so excited to be back. I know we are in the midst of the busiest time of year. So if you're joining us, we really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to be with us tonight. And since it is among the most difficult times of the year to stay on course with your weight loss and your health goals, tonight we are going to share some of our favorite strategies for navigating this challenging time. And we hope you hear a few that are going to work for you that you can take in to your holiday season, and you can go into the new year with lots of momentum around your weight and your health goals. So, of course, as you all are joining, make sure you comment below that you're here. We always love to hear where you're joining from. And as we go through tonight, we want to invite you to share some of your favorite strategies for this holiday, as well as some of your holiday-inspired recipes. We're going to be sharing some of ours, but please put it in the comments so that everyone can really gain some really good recipes for this time of year. We have Sharon in the comments. She's going to be sharing some of our recipes that we're going to be talking about as we go through. But we're happy to have you all here and be here tonight. Exciting time of year. So let me just make sure we are live. I believe we are. So again, make sure you're commenting when you join, that you're here. And seeing who has joined us. Let me see. All right. I'm not seeing this yet, but I'm sure we are there. So, Vera, you want to go ahead and we can kicking it off. I'm sure people are joining us here. I will find us in just one moment.
Coach Jennifer, I'm glad we're starting things off with areas in which you can stick to the diet and stay on track. So this tends to be a time of year where if one thing falls, it feels like a domino effect. So we just want to talk about having a to-do approach, an additive approach to this holiday season. So I want to start off with the first tip to keep yourself on track during the holidays is to keep yourself full. And that starts with starting off earlier in the day with your eating. So just as much as you want to kind of continue eating on a regular schedule as you have gotten used to in phase one, or certainly in phase two of the program, keep that schedule through this busy time of year. As Coach Jennifer has said, it's one of the most hectic times of year. It can feel like everything is up in the air, but we don't want your structure to feel that way. So just stick to your normal routine. Sometimes folks, we can refer to this as front loading, but I always recommend, I'm thinking specifically perhaps the day of a big holiday event or holiday meal, that you really eat most of your food, if not all of your food, before you're attending that holiday event. And again, some people do refer to this as front loading, having a bigger breakfast, starting the day with a double shake, for example, maybe having a double entree for the lunch or for the dinner. In fact, one of my favorite ways to start the day during this time of year, because it's kind of chilly outside, I'm kind of leaning into maybe having a more substantial breakfast. I'll do the HMR multigrain cereal with the scoop of the 120 shake. And I like to do either the chocolate or vanilla, depending on how I'm feeling. And then I put my berries in there and it feels really substantial. And that would count as a double shake right away. So the first tip of the day, stick to your eating structure, stick to a schedule, and start the day off with having a high day of meal replacements, lots of fruits and vegetables, really on the day of that holiday celebration, that holiday meal.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit to that, Vera, before we get into our next strategy, I also find, staying full, eating before you go, really having something that's going to stay with you, but also really maybe setting those alarms so that you eat frequently, because on holidays and when we're out of our regular routine, it can be harder to stick to a routine. And so there's no shame if you have to set an alarm to go off just to distract you enough to be like, oh, I need to eat. It's been 2 or 3 hours. Because I find when I'm eating regularly, the thought of having some of those other things doesn't come as frequently and as like strong as they may normally come if I let myself get hungry. And so really, when we're going to be in the midst of a lot of challenging foods and tempting foods, keeping yourself full, like you mentioned, but eating really on that 2 to 3 hours, maybe even over exaggerate it so that you don't
Yeah,
run the risk of really having your head talk you into having something that you're around.
absolutely.
And yes, so our next strategy to have you kind of going into this holiday season as you're tackling those holiday parties, using the strategy add, enjoy, avoid. So we talk a lot about this in our phase 2 groups, and it is definitely applicable in phase 1. And so when we say add, you want to add those things that will help support you to stay on track. So maybe adding those in the box holiday inspired shakes or dishes or treats. Really adding those add-ins that can make the biggest difference for you because there's a ton of lower calorie, very holiday inspired condiments that are in the box, and also leaning on those in phase 2 because there's enough calories that are going around. So even if you're in phase 2 and you have those decisions to
Hmm.
make, using that as an opportunity to add structure into your day and still enjoy those flavors, but not really having the calorie consequences that can come along with some of these holiday treats. So one rule of thumb is for your add-ins is keeping it 15 calories or less per tablespoon. You may even consider adding different things onto your holiday menu that are completely in the box, which we're going to be talking about some holiday dishes that you may kind of add in to your menu that may be a little bit different, but still helping you to stay on track. If you're not necessarily hosting, you can take these things with you so that
Yeah,
you have something that can really remind you of some of those kind of time honored traditional kind of dishes, but keep you absolutely on track. And let's see here. Prepping and planning ahead of time is also something that you may want to consider adding in. And I don't know about you, Vera, but Thanksgiving is a little bit different. It is the holiday that is eating. It's the eating holiday of the season. I think December is a whole nother beast because there's events and holiday parties. I know I have two this weekend, and it seems
right.
like my clients have, one or two every single week. And so these are things that you
Yes.
want to be considering um, to do for every event that you have. So the ad. Also, the enjoy for phase 2, really deciding what you want to partake in, what you would like to enjoy. So, kind of planning ahead of time and deciding if you are going to have a special treat, what special treat is that going to be, so that you can really stay more in control of that. So, just deciding in advance. And so, that's more for phase 2.
Right.
But things that you can enjoy, maybe there's a flavor that you just absolutely love this time of year. So, use that as inspiration because I have made it my mission as people share some of their like Aunt Betsy's favorite, you know,
Yeah.
dessert or side dish. Send it so that we can, help you like, or, be
Yes.
inspired by some of it may be a little bit different, but you can really get that feel for you. So really think
Yeah.
creatively out of the box, but to help you to stay in the box for those things that you want to enjoy.
Absolutely.
And do you want to talk about avoid? So we have the add and the enjoy and then
Yes.
the avoid.
So
So
oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
no, go.
But as you were talking, Coach Jennifer, two things pop up in my mind for the holiday flavors. I'm a pumpkin gal, so I can't get enough of the 70 plus vanilla pudding. And I'll use that canned pumpkin. And I just eyeball it. So, maybe it's
Mhm.
half a can or three-quarters of just the plain canned pumpkin. And then I do some of the pumpkin pie spice that I get from Trader Joe's. And I put it in the fridge. Oh my gosh, if it doesn't I have to make a double or a triple because it satisfies that pumpkin spice craving that, as you're
Mhm.
saying, it's ubiquitous at this time of year. There's holiday parties, but I'm noticing it most when I go grocery shopping. I'm out and about, and I
Yep.
am really struck by the holiday displays. Everything is very tempting for me. So I have to have
Mhm.
those go-to swap items to really feel like I can enjoy myself, but I'm not going to let the calories get away from me there.
Yeah.
And then, yes, talking about sort of that avoidance piece of this add, enjoy, avoid sort of spectrum here, we want to avoid really, this is about environmental control. Avoid bringing foods back with you into the home that might be a challenge for you. So there's a couple of
Mhm.
tried and true strategies here. if you are going to a holiday event, it's going to be pretty easy to just say, oh, no thanks for the leftovers, or assign leftovers to specific people, so that you're not taking things back into your home with you. If you're hosting, I often think that this can be a challenge for folks, in terms of the leftover department. I would make specific assignments for people, like, oh, Aunt Betsy, I know you like the macaroni and cheese. Please take as much of it with you home, and I've wrapped it up for you and it's ready to go. So have these,
Mm-hmm.
maybe like some people call it a script, but have these scenarios kind of planned out ahead of time, especially if you're hosting and you cannot or you don't want to have those leftovers in the
Mm-hmm.
home. That big piece of the avoid puzzle is environmental
Mm-hmm.
control. So donating it to specific people who are coming over so it can leave with them. Donate it to a
Mm-hmm.
neighbor, a community food bank, a church food bank, something like that. Or ultimately, this is a bit of a catchphrase in some of my phase one coaching groups, donate it to the garbage can, which I know makes some people uncomfortable, but
Right.
ultimately it's better served there than it is hanging out at home with us, where temptation inevitably will take over. So environmental control is really the biggest part of that avoid um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, aspect. And if you're in a situation where you can't necessarily remove all of those tempting items, I really like the idea of having somebody else put them in a place where you don't
Yep.
necessarily know where they are, or they're in a designated area for other people that is not a designated food area for you. So
Mm-hmm.
just kind of keeping things out of sight can be helpful if you can't completely remove those things from the home.
Right. Yeah. And I typically, especially if I'm hosting, I'll go ahead and get some of those styrofoam to go
Like it
plates
to
from
go.
Sam's
That's
so
great.
that everybody can, I just hand them out and people can take those dishes to go.
Nice.
And also, I think one thing we can fall into a trap is bringing leftovers home for someone else.
Uh-huh.
So, and we bring more.
Yep.
So if it is for your kiddos or your husband, your spouse, maybe only bring enough for them because you're going to be less likely to dive in if it's their special treat and it's only one thing. So
It would
that's
be
something
more
to consider.
noticeable with one
Right.
bite missing from
Yeah,
that
and
portion. Yeah.
and my kiddos would never let me down if I brought home something that was intended for them and then I ate that. So a little bit less that you'll go for it. But yeah,
Yes.
avoiding bringing home leftovers, absolutely something. And also sometimes we can avoid, maybe you want to go late. Like if you're in phase one,
Mm,
um, it's absolutely perfectly fine to show up fashionably late to some of these events.
yeah.
Um, or even leave early if
Yeah.
that's something that helps you avoid some of those really challenging periods during some of these parties. Um, so yeah, I think always going into it with a plan and thinking about what you can add in,
Mhm.
what you can avoid, and what you can enjoy. And in phase one, it's more so thinking about how you can enjoy some of those flavors and
Right.
staying with being in the box too.
Yeah. Some really quick, enjoyable ways in phase one to keep those flavors, but keep it in the box. Taking, I think it's the double chocolate chip benefit bar, microwave it for something like 15 seconds, Jen, and then it turns into like almost a lava cake just in the microwave. So really simple. Also, cutting up some of the benefit bars, sprinkling it on top of a prepared pudding or a prepared shake.
Mm-hmm.
The bread pudding always gets me. So that's a prepared multigrain cereal. I don't put a ton of water in it because I want
Mm-hmm.
it to be more of a consistency of like a
Yeah.
bread pudding dessert. So prepare the multigrain cereal and then prepare a chocolate pudding as almost a frosting layer. Yep. Top it with
Mm-hmm.
some fruit you would like, or just go for it as is. So there's plenty of phase one in the box recipes that really get you there flavor
Mm-hmm.
wise, but don't get you out of the box in terms of
Right.
calories. Mhm.
Yeah, and do your best. Try not to get stuck in like, oh, I'm on this diet. I can't enjoy this time of year. Some of my favorite
Right.
dishes because you absolutely can, and
Right.
you will not even miss. I mean, I've made some different things to share, and um, I think you may be surprised with some of the things that you can really enjoy and still and have that connection with your family members and friends, and
Yeah.
really be in the season versus always thinking about those calories and those foods. So
Yeah.
another strategy, especially if you're on healthy solutions or in phase two, is to fill your plates with those veggies first.
Yes.
Especially, making sure you know how they're prepared. Not necessarily going for grandma's green bean casserole that we know is probably made with the higher calorie flavors, but those roasted vegetables or the
Right.
salad or the fruit, potentially even having fruit as your dessert, and really not forgetting about some of those add-ins that can add something special to it, like the Ready Whip.
Yes.
Like the Ready Whip on top, it makes everything special,
Yep.
right? And you can feel fancy, put it in a fancy dish, so that you can really enjoy that. The 70 plus pudding with some of your sugar-free syrups and add-ins. So I brought a couple just to share. And actually, I think I was at Target in their kind of Christmassy section, and I was so excited. I don't know if anybody else gets really excited about your sugar-free syrups, but when I stumble upon like seasonal syrups in a store, it's like the best Christmas gift ever. So
It's like
I found
Christmas.
this, it is. I found this pack of three, and this is so it came with sugar cookie, which I'm going to share the recipe because I actually put this in these little cookies back here under my Christmas tree. So sugar cookie, um, salted caramel mocha. I haven't used that one
Gosh.
yet, but you can see a family favorite is the peppermint bark because
Oh, dang.
it's
It's
almost gone.
almost, it's like
It's
halfway.
almost
Yeah.
gone. So, and this was a trio. But if you want some, like I got this at Target, but I'm sure right now you could find them at TJ Maxx, those home good stores. Those are typically kind of where you get these specialty flavors. You can always go on Amazon or online if you want a quick turnaround. And these are Jordan's skinny syrups. And they have a ton. You may I have to control myself when I go onto the website because I want to get so many of them. And so also spices are a really good thing to
Mhm.
be adding in to your 70 plus pudding,
Ooh, Coach
your
Jennifer,
shakes. Yeah.
where'd you get that apple pie spice? That looks really good.
Oh, Kroger.
It's just real, oh my
Or
gosh, I
yes,
never
or
considered that.
yeah. Oh, it's so good, especially pumpkin. Like we always use pumpkin pie spice, but apple pie spice is another delicious one that is great for
Mm.
cereal, into shakes. It's really good.
Yeah.
But Kroger is kind of the store, but I think Ralphie's and JC's is in that brand. But I'm sure you could find it at Walmart too. I think Walmarts are all across the United States. So
Believe it or
another
not,
one,
that's a new one for me. That's
you'll
great.
have to add that one to your grocery
Cool.
list. Cinnamon is
Yeah.
another one,
Oh yeah.
nutmeg, all of those. Um, I love teas too to get different flavors, like holiday flavors. So the chai, oh, I have it backwards. So spice chai, cinnamon apple spice, and you can put a shake in there. And another one that I've been really enjoying lately are spiced apple cider. So you can use the packet like you would like any other add-in. So if you want to make the HMR pancakes, you could put some apple cider sugar-free in there and have apple cider pancakes or your muffins, or you could really use this like you would any other spice. Or you could have a hot apple cider that's sugar-free and in the box with a vanilla shake. So
Mm.
there's don't forget about all the add-ins that you can have. And also when you have a favorite, of course, post it in our Facebook group, but put it in the comments if you already have some seasonal favorites. Um, all right, let's get into some more strategies. And I see lots of folks have joined us. And so Jen, so good to see Jennifer on here. It's been such a long time. I see lots of folks. Marcia from my Phase 2 group. So lots of folks on, Deb, Aaron. So thank you all for joining, and please put your favorite add-ins and your recipes and your strategies in the chat, so that we can all really learn from each other.
Mhm.
What are some additional tips that we have for everybody?
I'm going to do some rapid fire. I'm going to do two in a row. So these
Yeah.
kind of go hand in hand of having extra fruits and veggies or meal replacements on hand. So Coach Jennifer, you're mentioning if you're going to an event, be the person who's bringing the fruit or the vegetable tray. And I'll tell you what, speaking of being in the box and keeping it simple, sometimes slicing fruit and presenting it in a nice bowl, as you were saying earlier, makes
Mm-hmm.
all the difference in the world. It makes it taste better. It's lovely to present something like that when you're bringing something to
Mm-hmm.
potluck style family event, something like that. So bring things with you, including extra meal replacements, because you never know. And you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
get caught in a situation where you're starting to become hungry and you don't have anything around you that is in the box, especially in phase one. And then kind of going hand in hand with that is to stay hydrated. Because of course you want to make sure that part of the reason hydration and drinking water as a part of this program is important is we want to make sure that we're not mistaking hunger for actual thirst, and keeping ourselves
Mhm.
hydrated will kind of mitigate any feelings of hunger that we might have in the moment. And we can stay
Mhm.
hydrated with really fun beverages, 0-calorie beverages, sparkling waters. Some fun mocktails are always fun at this time of year. So bring extra food than you might think that you need, certainly if you're going somewhere for the holidays, especially
Mhm.
packing those fruits and vegetables, meal replacements, and then make sure to stay hydrated with things like water, sparkling water.
Right. And also don't forget, put it in a fun glass, like a
Yep.
champagne flute. And you can put some cranberries in there. Just make it look beautiful and festive so that everybody's probably going to want what you're having, even though it's 0 calorie and a mocktail,
Yep.
which is perfectly fine.
Yep. Wonderful.
Um, Another strategy that I have found helpful is make sure to have those conversations. I know it can be difficult if you're going to multiple parties and different things, but sometimes just giving kind of a call to someone ahead of time to let them know instead of in that moment that you're doing something different can make it go easier. Get them on your team, let them know exactly what you're doing, so they can expect what you're going to be doing. And maybe you want to bring some things with you, and that's perfectly fine. And so I know Vera just mentioned bringing extra fruits and meal replacements. If you feel odd, like ripping up a packet and mixing it together, put it in some Tupperware and just bring it so that you have it, so that you don't have to have that kind of discomfort. So make it ahead of time, and that can be really great. So yeah, again, having those conversations so that you can preemptively avoid any of those difficult conversations if you do it in the moment of a challenge.
And this last strategy that I'm going to mention, well, actually, second to last strategy, we kind of talked about it earlier in terms of really the day of a big event or the big holiday meal.
Mhm.
Start that day with physical activity, especially that day. As important as physical activity is on a daily basis, especially when we're going to be confronted with a potentially challenging situation, a big family meal, a big
Mhm.
celebration where there's going to be plenty of high calorie foods all around, making sure that you start the day with the physical activity. It does a couple
Yeah.
of things. It protects that habit so that you know
Mhm.
you have that behavior to check off for the day. And we know from experience that physical activity is incredibly reinforcing for the other behaviors that are a part of this program, both in phase one
Mhm.
and in phase two. So
Mhm.
imagine this, you start the day with your physical activity, and that's going to strengthen your resolve to keep yourself in the box in phase one, or to make those lower calorie swaps and those types of decisions later on in the day for folks who are in
Mhm.
phase two. So really starting that day in particular with physical activity is a great way to front load the day with a
Mhm.
behavior that will really help with your success for that day and then that week as a whole.
And you could even start a new tradition because I know all over there are like local Christmas kind of 5Ks that you could start your day off. And I know we did, like there's like Santa runs and things like that. Um and it can be intimidating, but if you've never done a 5K, I think you would be surprised at how many people just walk
Walk,
and they dress up. I mean, it's
the
really fun, and
costumes.
you can
Yeah.
just have a new family tradition that you start your every maybe Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, whenever they are, with some physical activity and do, most of them are going for a good cause,
Yes.
for that. And then also, um, using physical activity during maybe like the dessert time. I know I tend to, after the meal, like when everybody's done eating, and that's when you may want to pick on different things.
Mhm.
Ask family members to take a walk or do something fun with the kiddos, like playing football or wiffle ball, like getting out. I had a client for Thanksgiving, and she did a scavenger hunt
Oh, fun.
for the kids. And so, just getting involved with and getting active will just help you to stay, on track even more.
Yep.
Um, so those are just really things. Maybe try to stay away from cleaning up. Maybe do offer to do other things with that.
Yep.
So we just kind of ran through several strategies to help support you, when you find yourself in these kind of social holiday events. So please put your favorites or some that you want to sample if you've not sampled some of them. We can also post them in the comments,
Yes.
as we're going through. But let's get into my favorite parts, the recipes. I mean, we all love to eat, or I love to eat, and I love this time of year with all the flavors. So let's start off with some of our favorite things that we do with the cereal. I'm gonna go first. So I made some little cereal protein balls, and you could probably even and they're on my Santa plate. So this is what we put out for Santa. But you could probably even make them kind of flat and make like a no-bake cookie. But I just mixed one cereal, the dry packet. So the dry packet with the vanilla 70 plus. I added just a dash of vanilla extract, cinnamon, and just a little bit of sugar-free maple syrup. So mix that all together, froze it in the freezer for about 30 minutes or so. And then I just sprayed my hands with some like olive oil, like spray, the cooking spray, because it helps you get them into nice little balls like this,
Yeah.
a little bit easier. And then put them back in the freezer
Okay.
so that you can have them. But so good. Oh, and I forgot, did I say I added the sugar cookie?
To
Cookie?
that mixture?
To this, yeah.
Yum,
So
yum.
this was in there. So my oldest has already stole one. This one has a bite taken out of it because my youngest wanted to try it before I came down. So absolutely delicious. So you can really make some of these things with the HMR shakes and cereals and entrees and the add-ins that you can do. What's your
Yep.
favorite thing to do with the cereal?
So when you're telling me about that apple pie seasoning, I'm thinking I have to add that into the apple crisp that I make. So I'm a
Mm-hmm.
pretty simple gal. Some people have told me that they like to add like a caramel or a maple no calorie syrup into the multigrain cereal. But what I do is I take the multigrain cereal and I just wet it enough so that it kind of comes out in clumps. And then I
Mm-hmm.
just bake it in the oven long enough that it gets crispy. It just takes a few minutes. And then I'll do like, I love a Granny Smith apple. So I'll typically after I'm done with the little bake, I'll do this the rest of the part in the microwave. Or microwaving the apple to make it warm, and I'm sprinkling that.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to call it granola for lack of a better term, but the HMR
Yeah.
breakfast cereal sort
Mm-hmm.
of crisp crumble on top. And that
Mm-hmm.
does it for me. But a lot of other folks like to add a little more flavoring into the cereal slash water mixture. And honestly, I eyeball it, but it's probably just a few tablespoons at most because you just want to make
Mm-hmm.
it wet enough that it'll kind of clump up and you can kind of toss it onto a baking sheet. That's the
Yeah.
apple crumble slash apple crisp recipe that at this
Yeah.
time of year, plus everything pumpkin. As I mentioned before, the pumpkin pie dip, as I call it, which I think it's listed under our recipes as pumpkin pie dip if you want to look on the website. So a can or maybe 3/4 of a can of just the pureed pumpkin that we get from the
Mm-hmm.
store, 70 plus vanilla shake. Mix those two things together. I put some pumpkin pie seasoning in there. You could season it up additionally if you wanted to. And then I'll
Mm-hmm.
do that as is. But some people like to do it as a dipper with like apples or maybe even strawberries would be good with that. It's kind of a
Yeah.
fruit dip. Yep. I like the
Mm-hmm.
simple.
Yeah.
I love your no bake recipe, but I'm like, it has to be so simple over
Oh,
here.
it was so simple. I made it in
That's,
like 2 minutes. Two
oh my
minutes,
gosh,
and then put it in. I mean, it's just a packet,
I'm
throw
gonna
in
try
some
it.
seasonings, mix it together. It's so, so good.
Love it.
You'll have to try it. But I'm all about simple too. Yeah, and so the apple crisp, and just think
Mhm.
about seasonally. You could do pears, you could do
Oh,
peaches, you could do
yeah.
any kind
Mhm.
of fruit, even maybe cranberries, because I know some folks have been making
Nice.
their own cranberry um sauce for Thanksgiving and
Lovely.
use low calorie. But to
Yep.
think of like a cranberry, like orange crisp, that sounds very
Mhm.
delicious
It
too.
does. Yep.
So don't get just pigeonholed into, oh, the recipe calls for apple. You could do anything,
Yeah.
any fruit.
Yeah.
And so the shakes, my goodness, you've added the 70 plus as a dip.
Yep.
With the pumpkin, you could also, we have some ginger snap recipes on our website. So if you like kind of gingerbread, um, look for those gingerbread inspired shake recipes. And any shake recipe that you make, you could put it in the cereal, you could put it
Yep.
as a 70 plus. So again, don't think, oh, well, that's a shake recipe for the shakes in the blender
Mhm.
or hot. You can make them any way in any form. So I know Sharon is going to be posting some of those ginger. I know we have a ginger snap shake. I
Mhm.
think there's even a gingerbread cereal. So I know she's going to be posting some of these recipes in the chat. Um, and I'm in Kentucky. I know Vera, maybe it's a little bit warm where you are in
A
California,
little bit. Yeah.
but I'm sure it's gotten colder. You're in California. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
In the evenings and the mornings, it's cold. That's what I'll
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
So hot shakes are definitely a good appeal for
Yeah.
you to have as a sweet treat. So a mint hot chocolate. I mean, my goodness, if you're sledding
Yep.
or you're going caroling, that could be a nice treat to have that's completely in the box.
Hmm.
Um, what's your favorite holiday shake?
I like the mint hot chocolate, but I'm gonna experiment with the double hot chocolate this year because I keep looking at the recipe and it just looks so intriguing to me. But I love the just the chocolate flavor that we have already is so rich to me. So just
Mhm.
something about making it double is like it's very tempting. So I'm gonna be full disclosure, haven't tried it yet because I've tried the mint hot chocolate and that's been
Mhm.
my go-to for the hot shakes. But I also
Yeah.
like the mocha latte that
Mm.
you can do with coffee in the morning. I mean, that's a big one for me. And that's a really nice hot shake option at any time of year, but it feels like a little extra treat at this time. And again, I'm a plain Jane, but I'm thinking to that latte, you could add any of those, the ginger snap syrup,
Yeah.
any kind of syrup really into that latte might be really good.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then also, shake wise, I have two seasonal favorites. So our creamy eggnog, if you like eggnog, you will love this recipe. It's delicious, and you could do it hot or cold.
Mhm.
But I typically do it cold. But I know Sharon's going to put that in the chat. But if you don't like eggnog, you probably won't like this recipe. But if you like eggnog, you want to try and get a fun mug that you can put it in and have it. And then I have had a candy cane shake every day this week. And I have to
It's so festive.
say, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so, so good, especially if you like peppermint. We
Hmm.
haven't really talked about that. So, peppermint extract is delicious. A little bit goes a long way.
It
So,
does.
don't get too heavy with that because it does go a long way. But those are two of my favorites.
Right.
Um, let's talk about some of our favorite entree soup kind of add ins that we can add in. We actually have a risotto green bean casserole. So if you are a traditional person and you have to have that green bean casserole, we do have a recipe that can keep you on the diet, especially if you're doing fruits and vegetables.
Yep.
Um, what's one of your favorite holiday
I
entrees,
love
soups, or
the really
entrees?
just the Thanksgiving in a dish, which it just feels for me, it just could be, it should just be called like holiday in a dish because it tastes, it reminds me of stuffing. You're using a soup in there. So you're getting
Mhm.
that, when we're tracking things, we can count the extra shake. And I just really like the way that it comes together and the flavors that it creates. For me, it's just like a more nutritionally dense stuffing version. It feels
Yeah,
spot on for me.
and
Yeah.
your house smells
Hmm.
so holiday. Like it's definitely that it has all the smells with it. So that
Oh yeah.
holiday, it should be holiday in a dish, but we call
Should
it
be holiday.
Thanksgiving in a dish if you're
Yeah.
going on our
On
website
the
and looking
website.
for this.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. So our HMR program.
But also the baked
Mhm.
mac and cheese, very easy, very holiday friendly. It also reminds me of like a really nice like Sunday football kind of
Yep.
meal or entree as a snack with the baked mac and
Mhm.
cheese. Could be a good one for sharing as well.
Yeah, and one of my very favorite holiday dishes for decision free is the beef stroganoff with the mushroom
Mm.
risotto. Anyone that's in my class, I've been throwing that out there a lot because it's a delicious combination, super easy,
Yeah.
and decision free if we happen to have some folks joining us that are only doing entrees or shakes and entrees.
Mhm.
So lots of alternatives that you can do to still have a very traditional menu, but keep you on track
Yep.
through this holiday season. And we've talked a lot about kind of different recipes, but really swapping out. So we've talked about some of the swaps. So instead of regular hot cocoa, you could go for the hot cocoa that we eat, the
Yep.
HMR hot chocolate. Eggnog is super caloric, regular
Yeah.
eggnog. And so really that's one thing I should have looked that up to see regular eggnog, how much that is. But swapping it with an HMR eggnog shake. And if that satisfies that
Hmm.
flavor for you, how many calories you're going to be saving and still enjoying it.
Yes.
We shared some different holiday cookies that you can make. This I cannot wait to enjoy these.
Which, Jennifer, I just have to say it's right there. And if it's the most if it's not the most distracting, they look so just like you bite into them and they're so substantial. So I'm right
I
there with you.
I can't wait to dive in after this
They look
event.
great.
So you
Yep.
all know what I'm going to be having as a little snack before I teach my class tonight. And then also as like alcoholic beverages, have sparkling water with maybe some fruit in it and a champagne flute. So there are absolutely things that you can still partake in, stay on track. And so we want to thank all of you who joined and also commenting. Make sure you swipe some of the recipes if you haven't done so already.
Oh,
And
yeah.
hopefully you found some helpful tips that are going to help support you through this season and as we wrap up 2023. And if you happen to miss any of our live events, you can always see the full recording on our HMR Facebook page. We'll post it in our closed Facebook community. We also have our YouTube channel, so you can just put in the search HMR program, see all of our videos that we've done, our live events. And from our HMR family to all of your families, we want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday. And until we connect next time, bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Happy holidays.